had words once, I knew how to pray. Then life got heavy, and somewhere in the wait, I stopped knowing what to say. But even there, you still heard me. I sat through nights with my hands locked tight, lamp on low, no sound in the room, phone face down, Bible half open, trying to move, but not moving at all. I had 1,000 thoughts with no clean language, a chest full of pressure and no release. Wanted to call your name the way I used to, but all I had was my breathing and grief. No polished prayer, no holy lines, just that ache that sits so deep it won't turn into speech. Jesus, you heard me when I couldn't speak, heard the hurt I couldn't put into anything, heard the weight inside my lungs, the cry beneath, the quiet underneath. Jesus, you heard me when I couldn't pray, when all I had were tears that would not fall away, and somehow in the silence I thought no one could reach. Jesus, you heard me when I couldn't speak. Morning came in thin through the curtains, dust in the air, coffee growing cold. I stood at the sink and stared through the window, feeling too tired to carry my own soul. And one small mercy in an ordinary moment, not a miracle loud enough to prove, just the strange relief of not being alone there, like someone in the room already knew. Not because I found the perfect sound, but because your love can read the heart before the mouth says anything. Jesus, you heard me when I couldn't speak, heard the hurt I couldn't put into anything, heard the weight inside my lungs, the cry beneath, the quiet underneath. Jesus, you heard me when I couldn't pray, when all I had were tears that would not fall away, and somehow in the silence I thought no one could reach. Jesus, you heard me when I couldn't speak. You heard the slam door, you heard the long drive, you heard the way I kept saying I'm fine, I'm fine. You heard the fear I covered up with routine, the kind that smiles in daylight and comes undone when no one sees. You heard the prayer before it had a form, before it found a sentence, before it learned a word, and that is how I know I was never out of reach. If you could hear my breaking heart, then you were closer than my need. Jesus, you heard me when I couldn't speak, and now I know the silence never buried me. Now I know the room was never empty. Now I know you stayed. Jesus, you heard me when I couldn't speak. Jesus, oh Jesus, you heard me when I couldn't speak. Heard the part of me too tired to believe. And if you could hear me there, then maybe healing really reaches everything. Jesus, you heard me when I couldn't speak. You heard me. You heard me. I thought I had lost the prayer, but you were already listening.
I came with questions I couldn't explain. I came with tears I didn't name. The room was quiet, heaven felt far, but somehow you were where I am. I didn't feel you like before. No rushing wind, no open door, just my breath in this empty space. Still I stayed right in this place. Answers right now. I don't need the sound, so I stayed when it was silent. I stood when nothing changed. I chose you without the feeling. I trusted without the flame. I stayed when I couldn't hear you. I stayed when I couldn't see. If you're here in the quiet, then the quiet is enough for me. Others left when the fire was gone, when the night felt way too long. But something in my breaking chest said staying here is still my yes. No promise written in the sky, just your name and my tired cry. This is all I get. I won't move, I won't forget. You don't leave just because I'm weak. You don't go just because I can't speak. So I stayed when it was silent. I stood when nothing changed. I chose you without the feeling. I trusted without even here, you're here. Even now, you're near. I don't need you loud, I just need you now. Even here, you're here. Even now, you're near. You're here. Even here, you're here. Even now, you're near. I don't need you loud, I just need you now. I stayed when it was silent. brought my pain. I don't have answers, I don't have proof, but I'm standing right here looking at you. I could run, I could hide, but your presence pulls me back inside. Jesus, I'm not leaving, even when I don't understand. Jesus, I'm still here now, with an open heart and trembling hands. I may not see the ending, but I know where I belong. Jesus, I'm not leaving, I'm staying all alone. The road feels heavy, the night feels long. Every step forward feels almost wrong. But in the silence, you're still near, not fixing everything, just staying here. I don't need the answer tonight. I just need to stay in your love. Jesus, I'm not leaving, even when the way is unclear. Jesus, I'm still holding on, even when the fear is real. I may not feel the breakthrough, I may not feel strong, but Jesus, I'm not leaving. I'm not walking away, I'm not turning back. I've come too far to run from your love. I'll stay in the waiting, I'll stay in the fire. If you are here, that is enough. I'm not leaving, I'm not leaving. Jesus, I'm not leaving, even if the night remains. Jesus, I'm still standing, calling on your name. You are my decision, you are where I belong. Jesus, I'm not leaving. I'm still here. Jesus. I don't come with perfect words. I don't come with perfect words. I don't come with borrowed faith. I come just as I am right now, with everything I have to give. Jesus, receive my worship, not because I feel it strong. Jesus, receive my worship, it belongs to to understand. I don't need to see the way. I don't need to understand. I don't need to see the way. I lift my voice, I lift my heart as an offering and praise. Jesus, receive my worship, every breath, every song. Jesus, receive my worship, it belongs to you alone. All that I am, all that I have, I lay it down, I lift you up. Receive my worship from the depths of who I am. Jesus, receive my worship. Lay right before your throne. Receive my worship. Receive my In the silence of this moment, when my strength is running low, you are closer than the shadows. You are all my soul will know. When the night feels overwhelming and my hope begins to fade, I can hear your mercy calling. I can feel the promise you made. Every heart, every soul turning back to the Lord. Here in your presence, everything changes. Jesus, your light is breaking through. Here in your presence, hope is rising. Every heart is turning to you. Jesus.
almost didn't sing tonight. I almost stayed closed off. But somehow, right here in this room, you met me before I could hide. The lights came up, the room was singing. Hands went high all around me. But I stood there with a heavy heart, trying to breathe, trying not to break. I knew the words, I knew the melody, but they felt far from where I was. There was a wall inside my chest, and I didn't know if worship could get through. I almost stayed quiet, almost looked away, almost let the pain have the final say. I almost didn't lift my hands, almost stayed frozen where I stand, almost let the weight inside me keep me from your presence again. But you were patient with my heart, you stayed close in the darkest part, and right there in my weakness, you taught my soul to breathe again. I almost didn't lift my hands, but then I did. There were tears I didn't want to show you, wounds I covered up with songs. I was tired of saying I'm okay when I knew I wasn't strong. But something in the sound of worship, something in the way you stayed, began to loosen all the fear I had been carrying for days. I almost kept hiding, almost shut you out, almost let my silence become my only sound. I almost didn't lift my hands, almost stayed frozen where I stand, almost let the weight inside me keep me from your presence again. But you were patient with my heart, you stayed close in the darkest part, and right there in my weakness, you taught my soul to breathe again. I almost didn't lift my hands, but then I did. Not because the pain was gone, not because the night was short, not because I suddenly felt strong, not because I had the words, but because you did not rush me, because you did not turn away, because your love stood in the middle of everything I could not say. And when my hands rose slowly, it felt like my heart came to a quiet kind of surrender, a broken kind of truth. I almost didn't lift my hands, almost let the hurt decide who I am, almost let the ache inside me keep me from your healing again. But you were gentle with my soul, you met me where I lost control, and right there in the middle of the song you pulled me in. I almost didn't lift my hands, but then I turned resistance into praise. I almost didn't lift my hands, but then I did. You saw me, you stayed, and in your presence, my heart gave way.